In today's episode, Bitcoin is in God candle mode after Grayscale has a big win in court. Judge calls the SEC's actions arbitrary and capricious. Are institutions draining crypto from exchanges? And a warning about crypto scams that you won't want to miss. Welcome back to Crypto Daily, everyone. Today's August 29th. We got big news today. So as you can see, Bitcoin up at 27,300. We saw pretty much God candle here from 26K. And this news broke like literally 30 minutes ago. But Grayscale had a huge win in court. So let's talk about it. You can see this massive candle on Bitcoin. So I think we're all excited to see it. Definitely, it's funny because, and this says a lot about the industry, but Bitcoin was just at 30K. Then we come down to 25K. Everyone's kind of losing their minds. A spike up to 27K suddenly makes everyone feel amazing, even though we're still lower than we were up at 30K. But that just tells you how much short-term emotions can factor in to how you think about crypto. And we'll talk about that later, but just something to keep in mind that don't let your short-term emotions control what you do too much. Obviously this is exciting news, but don't let it dictate the way you flow your whole portfolio. And I've talked about that before, is that you should have a plan. But anyways, for the exciting news, so Grayscale basically is fighting the SEC in court because they have filed to convert their fund. If you don't know, they have GBTC. They've filed to convert that into an ETF. And basically the SEC has denied it time and time again. And then Grayscale has been going for an appeal, and they finally got that appeal from a judge. So Tim Copeland is a pretty well-known writer in the crypto space for different outlets. So he quoted from this filing. So he was obviously reading through the court filings that were published literally an hour ago. And he said the denial, it's quoted from here, the denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious. So, the SEC basically denying their Bitcoin fund was considered arbitrary and capricious by this judge because there's other products out there, and there were two Bitcoin futures funds that have nothing to do with Grayscale, but are very similar in structure to the ETF proposal that Grayscale came with. So the denial of that is basically the judge is saying that, the SEC denying that is just them deciding to what they want to do on a whim. So, no real backing or reasoning behind what they're doing. And that is not how the SEC is meant to operate. Obviously, under Gary Gensler, we've seen a lot of capricious activities. So definitely cool to see that, the court has taken this side of the ruling. So Will Clemente came out and said, the courts have spoken. Between Ripple winning their suit and now Grayscale winning their suit, Gary Gensler and the SEC look like absolute clowns. So, this whole narrative has been shaping up that Gary Gensler is very anti-crypto, very against crypto in many different ways. And the SEC under Gensler cracked down on crypto pretty hard this year. But now through these different court filings, Ripple being a big one and then now Grayscale being another big one, we're essentially seeing, that there's this disconnect in the government in terms of how they feel about crypto. So you've seen different leaders in the government have different stances on crypto, but to have the court filings and the court rulings be in favor of crypto is really huge for the industry. So no wonder we have a nice candle today. If it holds, will remain to be seen. But it's definitely big news to see Grayscale winning this case. And then the BlackRock ETF decision, something that we don't want to forget about, is in like 4 days. So, I think this is going to be a huge week for crypto. A lot of people seem to be thinking after this news broke that we're looking pretty likely for a Bitcoin ETF before the end of 2023, which obviously, I could see Bitcoin hitting 40, 50K if we get that ETF launched by the end of the year. Not financial advice, just speculation. Institutions are draining exchanges. These are some numbers from the last 30 days. Coinbase lost 10,000 Bitcoin. Gemini lost 33,000 Bitcoin. Bybit lost 14,000 Bitcoin. Other exchanges about 7,000. So they're not losing Bitcoin, but people are withdrawing Bitcoin. So people are coming to the exchange, buying Bitcoin, withdrawing it to a native wallet, whether it's a hardware wallet or whatever, just an on-chain wallet. So some people think that this is institutional activity. Others think it's retail. It's obviously something that can't be tracked at this time. But if a big institution like BlackRock were to come out and say, "Oh yeah, now we've got 200,000 bitcoins," you'd know that they were the ones that were buying all this Bitcoin. So it's definitely a speculative thing. So the positive thing in my mind is that you want to see more Bitcoin flow out of exchanges and into wallets. A lot of different reasons behind that, but especially in the wake of FTX blowing up and all this Binance controversy, you want to see less Bitcoin on these exchanges. You want to see more held in wallets, whether it's retail or institutions. So positive thing overall. Whether or not it's institutions is speculation. Again, from Will Clemente. So crypto is a ghost town. If you look at Google searches for crypto, you obviously see the spike kind of correlating with price, and then things died down. So we're kind of in like that 2018, 2019 vibe where people don't really search crypto. People don't really care about crypto. If you talk to the average person on the street, they're like, "Oh yeah, I bought that thing back in 2021, and now it's worth 1/4 of what I paid for it." Or they bought some altcoin and it went down 99%. So the general vibes in crypto are very 2018, 2019 post bull market. So we're kind of in that like pre bull market era, in my opinion. So I've been accumulating Bitcoin, and you've been hearing me talk about it every day on this podcast. But I think it is a massive opportunity, and that's what Will's saying here too. To basically stay alive in the bear market and accumulate. So just stay alive, stay calm, accumulate, have a long-term plan, like I said earlier. And you can do pretty well in this industry. It's literally happened time and time again with every single cycle. And I've been in this industry now for 8 or 9 years, so I've seen 3 or 4 major cycles at this point. So I can tell you firsthand that staying alive and slowly accumulating is the name of the game. So a lot of regulatory news, but the SEC had a secret court filing, which basically just means they had a sealed court document that they filed, which obviously we don't know what's in it. But some people seem to think that it has something to do with basically a person or a company who would get damaged if they were to publicly say who it is right now. But it is kind of unusual, and that's what this article talks about, that the SEC would have a sealed court document in a filing like this, because usually they're very transparent about what they're doing in criminal investigations. So this is something to keep an eye on, something I'm kind of following with this Binance, everything happening towards Binance. There's definitely been some interesting movement. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Mandala, but it's an exchange that basically uses Binance's API. A lot of people just say it's basically Binance, but with a VPN cover over it. So there's been an interesting movement there where they're like rebranding and changing stuff. So just seeing some really interesting movements. Binance, obviously being the biggest player in this industry, is some people are saying it's the next FTX. Other people are saying Binance has been in this hot seat before and they've made it out, unscathed. If not, they've grown through it. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of FTX, there was a big data leak, and BlockFi also had this data leak with this company called Kroll. But basically a bunch of customer data was leaked, and then a phishing scam went out towards all, or not all, but some of these FTX customers through an email. So, you could read this article if you want, but my purpose in putting it here is just to say that, especially if we are kind of on the verge of a bull market, when the bull market does hit, there's going to be so many scams, so many phishing scams, so many, people saying that you can get rich by buying this altcoin. So my advice, or, what I've done in the past and what I've told people in the past is, be very careful. If you get an email of a link of like, let's say you get an email, let's say you use MetaMask for DeFi, you get a random email that says, "Oh, click here to update your MetaMask." My advice is never to click on anything you get in an email. If you think there's a MetaMask update and you got an email about it, or anything that's kind of adjacently related to that, go directly to the MetaMask website that don't click the link. So there's a lot of different tips and tricks you can deploy to protect yourself, but in this industry of, bleeding edge technology, it's very easy to get caught in a trap like this. So, my advice is just be very careful, know what links you're going to, have things bookmarked. And there's even extensions you can get now that detect phishing scams. So just be very careful. That's my advice. But this was the August 29th episode. I'll see you guys tomorrow for August 30th. Have a good one.